Matt and Bonnie's safe return topped the news on every local channel Saturday night. Throughout the Northwest, television sets showed the missing boy and his sister reunited with their mother. Bonnie, Matt, their mom, and their grandparents watched the reports together while they ate the macaroni and cheese that Stanley's dad had brought a week earlier. Mrs. Schulter had taken it out of the freezer as soon as she learned that Matt and Bonnie were safe. Pookie snoozed through the broadcast, even the part about him. In the downtown apartment, Miss Clueless took off her banner, her red evening gown, and her high heels. Wearing her comfy flannel bathrobe, she munched on salted peanuts as she turned on the TV. Her jaw dropped in disbelief when she saw Denny in handcuffs being led from a squad car to the police station. That was the cranky man with the kids who had used the bathroom at the restaurant. She stared at the TV screen, remembering how restless and angry the man had been, and how he'd rushed out of the restaurant when he learned his kids weren't in the bathroom. A chill went up her arms as she recalled the red-haired woman who had reported the writing on the mirror. She had shrugged the woman off, positive the message was written by someone trying to send the other guests down the wrong path. She tried to think of exactly what the message had said. At that time, she only paid attention to removing it, not the words themselves. There had been names, Bonnie and Matt and Denny, the same names now being mentioned on the news. Guilt spoiled Miss Clueless's appetite as she remembered her actions. She set down the dish of peanuts. Those poor children, they might have been killed because of her. Across Lake Washington, a woman in Bellevue saw the news, grabbed the phone, and dialed her friend. "Shelley," she said, when the friend answered. "That girl in the bathroom who asked us for help wasn't an actress." "What?" the friend said. "How do you know?" "Turn on your TV," the woman said. "The girl had been abducted at gunpoint. Her brother, too." "You're kidding," said Shelley. "I wish I were." South of Seattle in Kent, Eddie Gilden, the teenage driver who stopped to talk to Matt and Bonnie, was eating lemon pie with his parents when he saw the reports. Those kids on the street were telling the truth, Eddie realized. I could have saved them, but I drove off and left them with their kidnapper. Eddie put down his fork, remembering how the girl had begged him to help. He and his pals had debated whether to look for a police officer and tell them what had happened. I don't think we should get involved," Eddie had said. "Neither do I," said the boy in the back. "That guy looked mean. He might remember your license plate and track you down." "If he's mean," the third boy said, "maybe the girl gave us the straight story. We should tell the cops about those kids and let them decide what to do." In the end, the three boys drove home without disclosing the incident to anyone. As he watched the news report, Eddie said nothing to his parents. He couldn't bring himself to call the other boys who had been in the car to see if they'd seen the news. If he avoided them for a few days, maybe nobody would mention the two children who had pleaded for a ride. The ticket seller at the ferry terminal was driving home from work when she heard the news on the radio. She gasped when she heard Bonnie's voice, describing what had happened on the ferry. The girl said she tried to alert the ticket person, but the woman didn't understand. That wasn't true, the woman thought. I knew exactly what the girl meant, making her fingers into a pretend gun and all. But I didn't think it was for real. She had watched the man and the two kids walk away. Nothing in their manner seemed out of ordinary. The man even put his arm around the girl's shoulder, like a loving father. She considered dialing 911, but the other customers came to buy tickets. And by the time she had a free moment again, she had convinced herself the girl was merely playing a joke. She never made the call. With a lump in her throat, she listened to the rest of the radio report. Those children needed my help, she thought, and I turned away. In their tidy home near Pine Lake, Ruth and Fred Faulkner cheered when they heard Matt and Bonnie were both safely home. They cheered again when the news coverage showed Matt running into his mother's arms. They cheered even louder when the camera zoomed in on Matt hugging Pookie. "There's Monty," Fred said. "Oh, he looks so happy," Ruth said. "See how his tail is wagging? He's glad to see that boy again." She wiped tears from her cheeks. Detective Morrison went off duty, got home in time to watch the 10 o'clock news with her husband. She missed the part of what Bonnie had said because Spike was also off duty, kept playing with his loudest squeaky toy. Detective Morrison didn't mind. She'd heard it all in person, and she figured Spike deserved some playtime. One reporter interviewed the kidnapper's sister. Detective Morrison held Spike's toy so she could hear that part. "I didn't know Denny had a child," Celia said. "He never told me. He's mentally unstable and blames others for all of his trouble. I've tried to get him into treatment, but he would never go. I apologize to the Schulter family for my brother's behavior." "Apologies aren't going to be enough," Detective Morrison said. "The prosecutor will throw the book at Denny Thurman." "Woof," said Spike, and he got his toy back. That afternoon, Mrs. Schulter baked 3 loaves of her special banana bread and took them to the police station where Detective Morrison and Officer Calvin worked. "Here's a treat for all the officers who helped me get my children back safely," she said. She also took a large rawhide bone for Spike. At 2 o'clock, the teachers from Jefferson School joyfully hit the streets, taking down the Matt is Missing posters. Fred and Ruth Faulkner drove to the Humane Society Sunday afternoon. Faces aglow, they announced, "We're here to adopt a dog." They didn't get one, though. They got 2. When they found 2 older dogs who had lived together since they were puppies, Ruth and Fred couldn't bear to split them up. "Old dogs are harder to place," the Humane Society worker told them. "Everyone wants a cute little puppy." "Nothing wrong with getting old," Fred said. "We'll each have a dog to walk," Ruth said, "and it'll be good for our arthritis." "That's right," Fred agreed, "and we'll never sit around getting bored with ourselves." Matt and Bonnie spent Sunday afternoon playing cards with their grandparents and talking about their adventure to many friends who called or stopped over. "I shouldn't have believed Denny," Matt told Stanley. "Even after I saw Pookie in his car, I should have run back to class and told Mrs. Jules what Denny said." "Bad guys lie," Stanley said. "I should have screamed my head off," Matt said. After the visitors left, Grandma and Grandpa decided to pack for their flight home the next day. When Bonnie asked Matt if he wanted to practice pitching, his smile could have lit up Safeco Field. Bonnie crouched next to the garage and caught the balls Matt threw to her. After a few warm-up tosses, she called, "Give me a zinger." The 2 children grinned at each other. They both knew that for the rest of their lives, the word zinger would be a special bond between them. "How could I ever have wished for a sister instead of Matt?" Bonnie wondered, as the fastball streaked into her glove. She decided to buy him a welcome home present, a whole quart of strawberry ice cream, all for Matt. On Monday in PE, Nancy said, "Last night I dreamed I jumped on a magical trampoline and bounced through a hole in the clouds. I think it means my life is dull and I'm searching for excitement." "I think it means you should write fiction," Bonnie said. "Nobody has dreams like yours." This time, talk of dreams didn't bother Bonnie. With her brother safe, she had slept soundly Saturday night and again Sunday night. "Do you want to go to the mall with me and Sharon after school?" Nancy asked. "I can't," Bonnie said. "My mom went back to work today, so I have to go home." "Lucky you." "Yeah. Yes," Bonnie thought. "Lucky me. I get to ride the bus home with my brother and pet Pookie and catch the baseball while Matt practices his pitching." She could hardly wait for 2:36.